I have no idea when the bear market will begin, but when it does, we sure as hell better have a strategy in place. Otherwise, we're gonna lose a lot more money than we have to. But there's a ton of different things we can do. I mean, which strategy should we go with? Well, there's one in particular I want to focus on today called hedging. I believe that this is the best strategy for bear markets, better than just selling your coins near the top. It's not only me, institutional investors love this strategy as well. If you want to learn from the pros and protect your crypto gains, then this video is for you. Strap in, my friend, and let's roll the intro. I actually did not have a bear market strategy at all until a few weeks ago, but I was feeling a ton of pressure to get ready because many analysts have been calling for the top of this bull market to come by the end of 2021 or early 2022. If they are right, that means we gotta get started right now in terms of picking a strategy and learning how to execute it. So in the past few weeks, I dove deep into the world of bear market strategies. I looked at all the options out there, tried out some new platforms, and even implemented some of those strategies just to practice. Actually, I was quite lucky because I had a hedge in place and made a good chunk of cash in this recent crypto crash. Anyways, out of all the strategies I researched, I chose hedging as my go-to strategy. And in this video, I want to give you the foundation to get started as well. I'll explain what the heck is hedging, why it's better than other options, what platforms to use, and some final pro tips before you get started. So what the heck is hedging anyways? Well, it's when you open a new position that is negatively correlated with the rest of your portfolio. If your portfolio goes down in value, your hedge position goes up in value and vice versa. Here's a great visual that depicts the value of your holdings, the value of your hedge, and the value of your overall portfolio staying flat. The goal here is to protect your existing profits, not necessarily to make more profits. You can think of a hedge as insurance for your portfolio. But let's stop right here and address the 800-pound gorilla in the room. AKA, why not just sell our coins instead? Why go through all this hassle of hedging? Well, there's actually a couple key benefits of hedging versus selling. First is taxes. In the US and other countries that tax capital gains, selling triggers a tax event and then you'd have to pay taxes on any profits that you made. But if you don't sell your coins and just hedge instead, you can avoid a taxable event for now. Second is convenience. A lot of y'all have your coins in cold storage, like a hardware wallet, or at least spread across multiple exchanges. In that case, selling would require a ton of effort to move everything around, go through KYC, hitting the exchange's withdrawal limit, etc. On the other hand, you could just leave everything as is and open a quick hedge, which is much more convenient, and you'd also be protecting the value of your portfolio. Here's the thing though, hedging is not just one strategy. There's a lot of different ways you can hedge. The most common ways to do so are shorting, perpetual swaps, futures, and options. Let's run through each of these to give you a better idea of which one is best for you. First, shorting or short selling is a form of margin trading because you are selling an asset which you don't actually own but are borrowing from the exchange. When you close the position, you buy back the asset and return it to the exchange. If prices went down and you closed it at a lower price, then you get to pocket the difference as profits. Here's an example. Let's say you short one whole Bitcoin at $50,000 and then it drops to $45,000 and you close your short at that point. So you buy back one whole BTC to return to them, but since it's $5,000 less than before, you get to pocket that amount. You do need to have some capital on the exchange before you can short. That initial capital is called your margin, and you need to maintain that at a certain level if the price moves against you. Or else your position may be liquidated and they take your initial capital. Also, because you are borrowing from the exchange to go short, you have to pay interest on your position as long as it's open. Just keep that in mind and make sure that the fees don't eat into your profits too much. Besides shorting, you can also trade futures in order to hedge. And futures are simply an agreement to buy or sell an asset on a specific date at a predetermined price. So you can protect your portfolio this way because let's say you have one Bitcoin and it finally reaches $100,000 in price. Then you can use futures to lock in that price, giving you the ability to sell your Bitcoin for $100K at a future date. It goes both ways though, because let's say the price rockets way past 100K and then you still have to sell it for that amount since that's what your contract stipulates. Since these futures contracts expire, your hedge does not last forever unless you roll it over to a new contract with a further expiration date. You can also sell these contracts before they expire if there are secondary markets for them. And one key benefit is that futures do not have a funding rate, so you don't need to constantly pay to keep your position open. For all these reasons and more, futures are the preferred way for miners to hedge and manage their cash flow. Now, the next way to hedge is actually my favorite way. It's called perpetual swaps. But first, a quick shout out to our video sponsors, Valora. They are a mobile crypto wallet that lets you buy, send, and store your cryptocurrencies, plus access powerful DeFi apps. It's actually built on the Celo blockchain. Your transactions settle in seconds with almost zero fees. One huge benefit of their app is that you can send to other people's phone numbers instead of long wallet addresses. It's also non-custodial, which means you hold the keys to your own coins. And since it's in the Celo ecosystem, you can access their stablecoins CUSD and CEUR, as well as their native coin Celo. Because Valora is pretty new, they have some exciting promotions going on to kickstart adoption, like their Supercharged Rewards program, where you can get 50% annual rewards rate on their stablecoins. There's also no lockup period and rewards compound as they are distributed weekly. If any of that sounds enticing to you, then check out their app right now using my links down below. Alright, back to perpetual swaps. And with these, you can go long or short. But you're not actually buying or selling any Bitcoin here. Rather, you're entering into a derivatives contract with someone else on the exchange who basically takes the other side of your trade. A key difference here is that these do not have an expiration date, hence the name perpetual. They do have something called the funding rate though, which is the fee that the longs pay the shorts or vice versa in order to keep their positions open. This is basically a mechanism to keep the price of these contracts anchored to the asset's price on spot exchanges. Let's say most people want to be long, then there needs to be a way to incentivize people to take the other side of that trade and go short. That's where the funding rate comes into play, because at the end of every funding period, the longs pay a small percentage fee to the shorts while their position is open. And this also works the opposite way, like if the general sentiment is bearish and more people want to go short. Just FYI, this funding rate can fluctuate wildly, so it's something to keep an eye on in terms of how it affects your profit or losses. You can also use higher leverage with perpetual swaps, like 10 to 100x leverage. But be careful, because if you use 10x leverage, that means a 10% move against you will liquidate your entire position. And if you use 100x leverage, a measly 1% move in the opposite direction will liquidate you. Last but not least, the final way to hedge I want to mention is options. These are also derivatives, and they give you the right, but not the obligation, to buy or sell a certain asset at a specific price within a set time period. And there's two types of options, calls and puts. Call options go up in value if the price of the underlying asset goes up, while put options go up in value if the price of the underlying goes down. We can use put options to hedge against potential bear market losses. These option contracts often have a multiplier. Like in the stocks world, one option contract represents 100 shares of the underlying stock. But the contract itself doesn't cost as much as buying 100 shares. The beauty here is that you can hedge with built-in leverage while paying less money for the position. The cost that you pay for the contract is called the premium, and that's the only thing you lose if your contract expires worthless. There are some disadvantages though, like their expiration date can prove tricky to navigate. Options far in the future can get quite expensive, whereas short-term ones may expire before they give you the protection that you desire. Also, the options market for crypto is quite illiquid right now, so unfortunately, this may not be a good option for us until much later. Those are the four main ways that you can hedge when the bear market comes. And now that you have a better understanding of each one, you should go research more the ones that's best for your situation. But in the meantime, I'll share some top platforms and exchanges that you can use for each of these. Like shorting is offered on most exchanges, including the big ones like Kraken and Binance. For perpetual swaps, you can get those on a ton of different platforms like Bybit, Binance, Deribit, and my personal favorite, DYDX. which is actually decentralized but running on a layer 2 solution, so it's blazing fast. For futures, you can get them on popular exchanges like Binance, FTX, and Kraken, but also in the traditional markets with exchanges like CME. Options are the trickiest for crypto because you can get them on Deribit and LedgerX, but they're just not liquid enough to rely on. There's also DeFi platforms that do options like Hedgic and Open, but those have the same problem as their centralized counterparts, aka not enough liquidity. I hope that this video gives you a better foundation to start preparing your bear market strategy and hopefully, fingers crossed, protect our wonderful gains. But before you go, I have some really important pro tips for you. First, please try hedging with a small amount first to get a feel for it before you go all out. Second, these methods often include a lot of leverage, so please don't start degen gambling instead, because that's how you lose your money instead of protect it. Third, you don't always need to hedge 100% of your portfolio. Sometimes it's better to just partially hedge, and that may be more capital efficient as well. Fourth, always be mindful of the fees, because those may eat into your earnings. And fifth, hedging is obviously way more complicated than just selling our coins. You're gonna have to take some time to properly learn it. But I promise you, it's gonna be worth your time and could help you save so much money in the long haul. I'm actually thinking of creating a really comprehensive step-by-step PDF guide on how to hedge, and maybe charge a small amount for it, like 20 bucks. But only if there's demand for it. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in. And if enough people want it, then I'll take the time to write it. Also, if you want to learn more about crypto options, then watch this video that I made about it before. Anyways, I'm Kevin from Coinsider. I can't wait to see you on the next one, and cheers.